Dr. Arvind, can you confirm whether the screen is visible or not?
Yeah, good evening, sir. Yeah, your screen is visible, sir, and your sound is also coming perfect. Now
Thank
I
you, thank
think
you.
participants are joining. So Ajay, you may start now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is my privilege to welcome you all to this session of the Faculty Development Program on Research Oriented Technical Writing ROTW 2026. Today, we are honored to have Dr. Neeraj Kumar Chaudhary sir with us. We are grateful to Dr. Neeraj Kumar Chaudhary sir for kindly accepting our invitation and sparing valuable time to share expertise with us. Now, with your permission, I would like to briefly introduce our esteemed speakers. Dr. Neeraj Chaudhary sir is an associate professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering in Motilal Nehru, NIT, Allahabad, Prayagraj. He received his BTech in Electrical Engineering from Haldia Institute of Technology, West Bengal in 2009. ME in Power System from Bengal Engineering and Science University. Sipur, now IEEST, Sipur in 2011 and PhD in Electrical Engineering from MNIT Allahabad in 2017. Dr. Chaudhary has extensive experience in teaching, research, PhD, supervisory, technical publication, and academic administrator. His current responsibility at MNIT Allahabad includes serving as a member of the Department Undergraduate Program Committee DUGC, Department Master Program Committee DMPC, and NBA UG Committee of the Department of Electrical Engineering. He is also a faculty coordinator for Cricket SSC and a member of the Coordinated Committee for Major Activity in the Dean Academic Office. He is an IEEE senior member since April 2023 and is member of several IEEE societies. He is currently serving as a warden of MM Malviya Hostel, officer in charge of the electrical machine laboratory, conveyor of DDPC, and faculty in charge electrical. He has previously had several important responsibilities, including officer in charge of the departmental timetable, faculty coordinator of GNOSIS Club, officer in charge of the virtual instrumentation laboratory, warden of BG Tilak Hostel, conveyor of DUGC associate faculty in charge, and faculty in charge of the seminar hall and departmental library. His major research area including power system protection, microgrid protection, renewable energy, and distributed generation system. We are indeed privileged to have such an accomplished academician and researchers with us today. On behalf of the organizing committee and all the participants, I extend a very warm welcome to you. Without taking much of your valuable time, I now request Dr. Neeraj Kumar Chaudhary sir to kindly deliver today's lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, first of all, I would like to thank the organizing team of this FDP for giving me this opportunity to interact with the participants. I'm also thankful to the organizing team from NIT Patna that they have organized this course, this FDP, in a very well manner. It means from last 10 or 12 days, they are working really very hard, and my special thanks goes to Dr. Arvind Prajapati, who has first of all interacted with me, and I can say that he has asked me to deliver something related to the content of this FDP. Thank you, everyone. So, before we start, uh, I would like to first of all discuss about something about this topic. So, today we are going to discuss a very practical and important part of this research oriented technical writing. That is how to respond to the reviewer's comment and revising a manuscript. right? So all of you know that submitting a paper is not the guaranteed. It does not guarantee that it is going to publish. Means this is just one stage of publication. That is the submission of paper. In many journals, reviewers will identify weaknesses. They will ask their questions, suggest some additional analysis they want to know about, or what they want to verify, or they may request for further improvements in your content of the research paper. So our ability to respond properly can strongly affect the quality of the manuscript, that is the revised manuscript, and also the outcome of the entire review process, right? So the main purpose of today's lecture is not simply to learn polite sentences, means how to impress the reviewers. Rather, today we will learn how to understand what a reviewer is really asking, decide what actions are to be taken, and what make the necessary changes in the revised manuscript, and communicate those changes clearly to the reviewers, right? So as researchers, we should remember that the reviewer is definitely evaluating our manuscript, not our personal ability or intelligence. Actually, we will have to understand that they are actually not judging our ability or our intelligence. What we have communicated, what ideas we have communicated to the reviewers through the manuscript, they are evaluating only that. Now it is up to us that how we have represented our ideas in writing, or what are the different presentation skills we have chosen in the manuscript, that will be reflected to the reviewers, and based upon that they will give their comments, and accordingly they will share their decisions that whether to accept or to revise or to reject the manuscript. So I hope this session will be useful to all of you. So let us start now. So slide is moving. Can anybody confirm?
Yes, sir. Slide is moving.
Okay, thank you. So these are the learning objectives of this entire PPT. Means at the end of this presentation or session, the participants will be able to understand the concept of the entire review process, starting from the submission up to the decision. So let us first look at these learning objectives. So by the end of this session, you should understand why peer review and revision are important parts of any research publication. Then one should be able to also classify the comments into the different categories, such as you can say whether it is major technical issues or some minor technical issues in the manuscript what we have submitted, or some you can say presentation issues are there, means we have not appropriately presented our ideas in the manuscript, or some interpretation issues may also be there. And then we will see the editorial corrections, that how they take the decisions as per the feedback of the different reviewers, right? And then you should also be able to prepare a point by point response, that if you go through means thoroughly through this entire presentation, then you will see that how to prepare a point by point response. This is important because a reviewer should be able to see how every individual comment can be addressed, because in any particular manuscript there may be multiple reviewers. Means I hope that most of you might have submitted your submission or manuscript in any of the journal papers. reputed journal papers, you can say Q1 or Q2. So at least three reviewers review your manuscript, right? It may be possible that one reviewer has given a good feedback for your work, but may be possible that the remaining two or any one of the three reviewers have given some negative comments. So how to tackle with that situation, that you will also understand. Then we will also learn how to revise a manuscript systematically instead of making just the random changes, right? It is not actually required that you need to always means accept the changes whatever they have suggested as a process of the review. You will have to defend also sometimes. If you are confident and ethical about your research, then you must know what are the strong points in your manuscript or your methodology, and accordingly you should respond. Finally, we will discuss different and difficult cases, that what should we do if we disagree with the reviewer. Then what if two reviewers give opposite suggestions? One have strongly recommended, one has strongly recommended your manuscript, and another one has given some adverse comments. Then how to tackle with that condition? And what if, suppose, an additional experiment is requested, right? And if you are not able to perform that experiment, most of the times you will see that means I will give my example only. That I am from electrical background, power system specialization. I work in the area of microgrid protection and control. So most of the time, reviewers give comment that you need to means validate your methodology on a larger test bed systems, right? And on the other hand, you must know that every journal paper has some page limitation, either page limitation or word count limitation. So if always you are going to means perform your study on a larger test bed systems, IEEE test bed systems, maybe suppose 130 bus system or even more, then that will take more pages to present your results. The graphical results, tabular results are there, then the discussion part will be there, right? So it is not possible that within the given page limitation, always you can present your ideas and the entire result and discussion session. So how to tackle with those situations, that we will come to understand. So these are the common situation in research publication that I have discussed. I have to discuss throughout my session, right? So let us understand where the reviewer comments fit into the publication process, right? So normally, means in this slide we will discuss about the entire peer review process, means starting from the manuscript submission towards the decision. Means you have submitted the manuscript, and then a final decision has been conveyed to the authors of that manuscript, right? So normally we submit a manuscript to a journal or maybe any conference. So editor first performs an editorial screening, right? So this is one of the important step, that whether you have complied with the journal specifications or guidelines or not, whether you have followed the instruction of submission or not. Yours, for example, what I have just discussed, that is about the page limitation, word count, or formatting. Whether suppose there are multiple journals, for example, IEEE. So IEEE normally allows the submission in a double column format, right? However, the suppose Elsevier normally many of the journals like EPSR or EPS, they allow submission in the single column format. So whether you have complied with all the guidelines or not, whether the abstract word count is within the given limit or not, whether you have given a adequate number of keyword or not, right? Whether the similarity index or plagiarism of your paper is within their limit or not. So entire things, formatting issues. Then another important aspect is that whether the submitted article falls within the domain of that journal or not, right? So entire thing is screened first at the editorial desk, right? And the editor first performs an editorial screening. The editor may check whether the manuscript fits the journal scope and also whether it satisfies the basic requirements or not, right? That's it. So suppose if these things are not fulfilled or any of the thing is not as per the guidelines of that journal, then editor may take the decision at that instant only, and they may either reject that submission or they may send back that submission to the authors that you revise your manuscript as per the guidelines of this journal and then resubmit. This is first option. And second is that they may reject the submission also. Most of the time they reject the submission because you know that nowadays a huge number of manuscripts are submitted in any of the reputed journal, right? If you are a phd scholar, then you might have seen that whenever you submit any manuscript to any journal, then a unique number is identified to that manuscript, right? For example, epsr 2026 5634. So last four digit normally signifies that the number of articles submitted in that particular year, right? So there is a well-known proverb that selection is a process of rejection, right? So in that way, they try to reject as many of the papers as possible, right? So you should be very careful while preparing the manuscript, right? That you should follow all the guidelines related to the that particular journal in which you are submitting the paper, right? So next step, if the manuscript is sent for peer review, means suppose if you have qualified in the editorial screening process, then that manuscript will be assigned to reviewers, right? One or more reviewers examine the work. Normally, in any good journal, at least two or three reviewers examine your manuscript. They evaluate different aspects such as you can say methodological part, then novelty of your work, whether it is novel work or just a repeated kind of work, then what analysis you have done in terms of the results part, what you have presented in the manuscript. Then they also check your presentation skills as well as the language language part, that is English language of your manuscript, and then the scientific contribution, right? So all these things are very important aspects throughout the submission and review process, right? So it is not like that if you have qualified in the editorial screening process, then you can be assured that the paper will be accepted, right? So in any good journal, all these things are equally evaluated, right? For example, suppose your idea is very novel, right? So, but it is novel to you. You are thinking that yes, this work has never been done earlier, right? But if you have not presented that work properly, then how can anybody understand, right? That if suppose your work is not being understood by the reviewers, then they will say that no, this is of no use, right? So you will have to be very careful while presenting your ideas, right, in the manuscript. So, suppose the review process is now complete, means two or three or five reviewers have given their feedback to the editors. So after receiving the review reports, the editor makes a decision, right? Now there are different kind of decisions that may be taken by any editor. It may be uh, of acceptance in the present form, or it may be in the category of minor revision or major revision, or simply rejection or resubmission, right? So these are the different categories. Just a minute. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Thank you, thank you. So these are the different categories of the decisions: accept, minor revision, major revision, reject or resubmission, right? So one important point is that a revision request is not actually necessarily a bad news, right? I will share my experience, and you will also realize most of you might have submitted manuscripts in different journals. Then it is very difficult nowadays to get the revision also, right? Most of the times you will see that in the first step, that is the editorial screening, or in the second step, means based upon the reviewer's comment, most of the papers are directly rejected, right? So it is a very good news that if you are getting the revision of your submitted work in your manuscript, because ultimately you are getting the feedback from the people working in your domain, and they are at different places, reputed places. Actually reviewers may be from abroad or from very reputed university or from your country, so you are getting different perspective of your work, right? So it is basically a good news. So in fact I can say that if the editor invites revision, the manuscript still has an opportunity for improvement and reconsideration, right? So most of the time I have seen that if you receive the review of your work or your manuscript, then there is a 50-50% chance, or even I can say that 60-40% chance that the manuscript will be accepted if you comply with the reviewers suggestions or questions they have asked through the review process, right? So therefore, definitely your or our attitude should be what can I learn from these comments, right? And how can I make my paper or manuscript more stronger? The weightage of the manuscript will definitely be increased if you comply with the reviewer's comments. Suppose most of the journals, what they do, they will give you some constructive feedback in the review process, right? You will get the response from different reviewers. You will find that most of the review comments are general statement, but you will find that there are some technical suggestions as well, right? So you may think that, oh, they have normally accepted almost all the things in the manuscript. However, after even after that they have rejected the manuscript, right? But if you will incorporate all the suggestions of the review process in your revised manuscript, then it may be possible that in the next submission process in any other journal, there is a very high chance of the acceptance of your submitted paper, right? So now next we will discuss about how to understand the editor's decision, right? So before responding to the reviewers, carefully read the editor's decision letter, right? One should go through the entire comments and carefully understand the editor's decision letter, because editor normally takes the decision by going through all the reviewers response, right? say you can say that based upon the reviewers comment of all the reviewers, means they categorize the entire review process. Means there may be some minor comment in the revision process, there may be some major comment in the review process. So the difference between minor and major revision is important, right? A minor revision may actually require improvement in clarity, then it may be related to the formatting issues or English language issue with your manuscript, then way of writing the references, whether it is as per the guidelines or template of the journal paper or not, or some minor technical details, right? However, a major revision may require some substantial changes in the methodology, the experiments that you have performed, the analysis part, how you have analyzed your results, then how you have interpreted that discussion part, or even you can say the presentation part, right? Whether in proper sequence you have organized or organized your manuscript or not. So this may be a part of the major revision process. So one should understand the difference between minor revision and major revision. So it will be mentioned in the decision letter that whether your manuscript is under the category of minor revision or major revision, right? So sometimes the editor may provide specific instructions that are more important than you can say individual reviewer suggestion, right? Um, that's why I told earlier before the start of this slide that we should read the editor's letter at the very first step, as a very first step, right? Another useful practice is to uh, read all reviewers' report completely before you have started the revision. It's not like that. If suppose the first reviewer has given the feedback in your favor, then you should start directly responding to that. You should go through all the reviewers' report before you are going to start the revision process of your manuscript, right? And one thing is very important that you should not immediately uh, respond to the first negative comment, right? There may be some negative comment related to your work. However, it may be possible that you are very confident about your work, but it also depends upon the readers, means reviewers, that in which direction they have thought your methodology, whether they are getting connected or not. So there are so many things which is actually related in the entire submission and decision process, right? That is the peer review process. So, first of all, understand the overall situation, then decide how to organize the revision of your manuscript. The most important principle here is to understand first and then respond later. Means this is applicable to all the situations. I hope you understand. So this is the same thing here also. So now, before you start the revising, uh, first, read all comments carefully and completely. Sometimes one reviewer comment is connected to another comment, uh, maybe later in the report. And then, second, remain calm and professional, right? Some comments you may find as harsh, but your response should not be emotional, right? You should be very professional while responding to the reviewer's comment, right? I already told you that you may have a very novel idea, but there are different steps. Maybe your presentation skill or the way of interpretation of the result section is not adequate. That is not connected with the reviewer. So you should never be emotional, right? And then another step is that separate the major issues from the minor issues, right? For example, you can say a request to clarify an equation is different, right? From you can say that a request to conduct a new validation experiment, right? One may ask, a reviewer may ask you that suppose something in the mathematical modeling part you have expressed one equation, right? And some constraint are missing from that equation, right? By mistake you have missed something. Suppose you have taken any parameter as variable, but later on you have considered that as a constant, right, in the optimization problem. Then that by mistake also you might have done that, right? So it does not mean that you always need to perform a new experiment, validation experiment, in the defense of that variable part, right? I hope you are getting. Then you can say the another step is that prepare a revision checklist, or you can say a response matrix, right? Means if you will see, normally the journals from IEEE, many reviewers are there for a single manuscript. 5 or 6 reviewers may also be possible. To those, the paper may be assigned, right? So for a single reviewer, you may find 20 questions or queries they have asked. So in total, approximately you can expect 60 to 80 to 100 comments in particular cases, right? So there is a chance of there is a chance that you may escape any comment, right? That's why this response matrix and checklist becomes important, right? Then the fifth thing is that identify uh, what each comment actually requires, right? This is another important step. Does it require a new experiment to be performed, or just additional analysis part is required? Or there are many cases where just by adding some existing references, means the studies which are already performed in past literature, it may be possible that just citing a new reference, you can defend your work, right? So the literature survey part should be very strong in any study. Means all the analysis, major analysis related to your work, which has been done in the past, that should be your first objective should be to include that in the introduction part of your manuscript, right? In the literature survey part, right? However, if you have missed something due to which some questions has been asked, which requires additional experiments to be performed or some comparative analysis type of work to be performed, then you can always cite the past references, right? And normally the reviewers agrees with that if that is well proved in past, right? Then some comments may require better explanation only. Suppose casually you have written any part, or in hurry you have written something which is not analyzed in a good way, then you can revise that. Or there may be some minor language corrections also, right? Then finally you check the journal's uh, revision deadline and instructions. A technically excellent revision can still create problems, right? Uh, so sometimes it's very difficult to understand what the reviewers are actually asking in some of the cases. So there is a always a possibility that you can communicate with the editorial board of the journal process that we'll discuss. Next, we'll see classifying the reviewer's comment. Uh, I have already explained that there may be major technical issues or minor technical issues, right? Like major technical comments may question about your methodology, assumptions, validation, or you can say novelty. So such comments require careful scientific attention. Right? Sometimes you will see that in almost all the journals, first decision you will receive is either reject or of major technical issues or major revision, right? Then some journals may get agree after you have submitted your revised manuscript, and they directly accept your manuscript as a revised version in the first revision process only. But most of the journals ask you for the second stage of the revision process, right? Especially in Q1 journals, you can say, like the journals from IEEE, Elsevier, or Taylor Francis, or Springer, they may ask for the second stage of the review process, right? First, you will get a major revision, then minor revision. So, in the minor revision, technical comments that may be asked to provide some missing parameters. Then they may ask about the explanation of any particular step or to add any relevant missing reference in your manuscript, right? Then presentation comments may also include the concerns related to figures, tables, organization of the entire manuscript, then figure captions or table captions. Sometimes we miss to add the units in the graphical sections, right? So these things may be a part of the presentation comments, right? So interpretation comments are another key concern that is also very important. So a reviewer may feel that sometimes that conclusion is very strong, but the claim that you have demanded through your manuscript is not sufficiently supported by the result section. Means in the throughout the result section in your manuscript or in the discussion section, uh, you have not compared your work with the past work done in that field. However, in the conclusion section, you have mentioned so many claims, right? So generally, this thing is not appreciated, and it is for sure that you will receive these type of comments if you have not followed, right? Then there may also be conflicting comment, right? This is very, I can say, dangerous thing that in such cases of conflicting comments, we should not simply follow uh, the questions of one reviewer and ignore the another reviewer, right? So first of all, we need to understand the underlying concerns and find a scientifically reasonable solution, right? I have mentioned in one of the slide that one reviewer may be in favor of your uh, manuscript, but another reviewer may have given the adverse comment for the same work you have submitted in the same journal to the same editor. So how to tackle with that? This is also very different aspect, right? Then now we will see uh, the response to reviewers document, right? So the response to reviewers document is one of the most important part of in the entire revision process, you can say, right? Think of it as a communication document between the authors and the reviewers, right? So you will have to be very specific and I can say polite throughout the entire process, right? So you should start with a polite acknowledgement to the editor and the reviewers, right? Then respond point by point, right? You should not combine the different comments. Actually, you should respond point by. There should be point by point response to each and every comment. Never combine many unrelated comments into any one, just any vague response, I can say. Right. Just a minute. I'll take some water. Yeah. So I was telling that uh, we should be starting with a polite, very polite acknowledgement, and that we would like to acknowledge the editor and the reviewers for their dedicated work throughout the review process. I will give some examples later on. Right. Then we should respond point by point. Now, for each comment, you should state what the reviewer said, right? It's not that just you start responding the technical content. First of all, you repeat the question in some other form and then explain your response. Then describe the revision made by you, and the most important thing is that you should identify the location of the revised content in your manuscript, right? That is page number where you have done the change, then section number, paragraph, figure, or it may be table. And if you can recognize the line, then it's very actually useful for the reviewers, right? Because you will understand, most of you are, I think, the faculty members, you are also reviewing the manuscript. So normally after each alternate day, we receive a manuscript for the review process from the different journals, right? So people actually get irritated also. Right. So there may be 5 or 10 manuscript pending with you that you have to complete the review process by the end of this month or by the end of this date. So normally they try to finish the work. They see the main part, methodology part, the presentation skills, novelty part of the work, right? So it's very useful for the reviewers if you identify the location and sections where you have done the revision in your manuscript, right? So the ultimate goal is to make the reviewer's job easy. In the easy word, I can say you are actually making the reviewer's job easy, right? Actually, the reviewer should not have to search for the entire manuscript to find any change, right? Suppose you have done change on page number 6 of your revised manuscript. So you will have to mention that I have done change on page number 6, paragraph number this or line number this, right? So here you will see the one of the recommended response structure, right? So actually, in this slide basically gives us a practical structure for writing each response, each review response, right? So first of all, reproduce the reviewer comment accurately, right? Either we can quote it or summarize it without changing its meaning. It's also not good that you just repeat the words in the same form. So you can reframe it, summarize it. Then the second thing is that write your response, right? First of all, you will have to be sure that whether you agree with the comment or not, or partially agree with the comment or not, or simply you disagree with your comment or not. So whether you agree, partially agree, or disagree with the comment, so in all the cases, you need to give the proper justification or the reason for your agreement or denial, right? This is very important step. Then the third one is that describe the revision made, right? You should be very specific about what you have added in the revised manuscript or what you have removed from the revised manuscript. Means many of the times the reviewer may say that this section is not required. so and so section is not required in the manuscript. So in that case, removal of the content is also possible, right? What modifications you have done, what clarifications you have done. So all these things you will have to mention or describe, right? Then fourth one is that they give the location of the revised content in the revised manuscript, right? Uh, I will give you one example. Uh, Suppose for any reviewer's comment, you have just mentioned or you are just saying that we have revised the methodology. So this is not appropriate. So what we can say is that we have suppose added details of the experimental protocols or parameter settings and data sampling procedures in suppose section 3.2 or 3.4 of the revised manuscript, right? So this level of detail shows that uh, uh, the comment had been carefully considered and it is also properly addressed by the authors. So this kind of response gives another kind of impression in front of the reviewers, right? So here we will see when a reviewer identifies a valid criticism, right? Excuse me. So we will see that you should acknowledge the issue directly, right? If the reviewer identify a valid criticism, right? For example, suppose a reviewer says that the methodology is not sufficiently described. So you are the author of that manuscript, right? So you will be knowing that before submission, you know that what are the technical merits and the limitations of your manuscript, right? So suppose if you agree with this, then you should say if that is true, there is no benefit in defending the original manuscript. You should simply accept that yes, we missed this part. You have highlighted a very valid comment, which will definitely improve the quality of the manuscript. You should agree with that, right? And then we should say that we appreciate the observations, and then you can explain what we have added. So, and then after making the change, we should check whether the same issue appears elsewhere in the manuscript or not, right? This is also one of the important things. Suppose any reviewer um, has given any comment for a particular section of the manuscript, right? For any particular part of the manuscript, right? You have addressed that as per the recommendation of the reviewer. Then you should also thoroughly check the entire manuscript whether you have done the same kind of mistake which the reviewer has not identified. And in the revised manuscript, you should try to resolve all the part which was involved in that particular field, right? For example, you can say if we change a definition or you can say notation, then any parameter value or experimental condition in any one of the sections, we should check the abstract also, then methodology also, result, figure, table, and conclusion throughout the manuscript to maintain the proper consistency, right? Then one very important thing that sometimes we find that uh, the thing what you have claimed or presented in the manuscript, so that may be very common to you or you may be very familiar with that statement or particular section, but it may not be possible that the reviewer also is very familiar with that methodological part or conceptual part, right? So it is not good that you should write in your response that corrected as suggested, right? So, because this statement directly cannot say the reviewer what has been corrected. So, the good thing or good response will be like that. Uh, we understand the problem, we took corrective action, and we show where the correction has been made. These are the three important steps, right? But you should be, first of all, very clear that whether you accept the reviewer's criticism or comment, or you partially agree with that, or you are in a denial phase. Accordingly, your revision will be prepared, should be prepared, right? Now, another important thing, suppose when you disagree with a reviewer, right? Even in that condition, let me tell you that one of the most challenging situation in the entire submission and review process is when you disagree with a reviewer, right? I'm not telling that one should not be always in the acceptance phase. Whatever the comments you receive, you should blindly not accept that, right? So one of the most challenging situation is when you disagree with him, right? Since first of all, you should remember that disagreement is not the same as confrontation, right? We should never say the reviewer is wrong, right? So instead of saying that the reviewer is wrong, explain the scientific reason for your position, why you are uh, in such a uh, why you are thinking like that, that the reviewer has given a wrong comment. So first of all, you will have to analyze that, right? So in that condition, if possible, you should provide the evidence or reference, past references of your claim on, or even more important part is the mathematical reasoning or modeling part, or through experimental validation or result part, you can claim it that the response given by the reviewer cannot be accepted. But in any of the cases, you should be very respectful, right? Because I have already mentioned that your way of thinking and the reviewer's way of thinking towards your problem may be different. Ultimate goal is that to increase the or to enhance the quality of your manuscript, right? Then sometimes the reviewer may misunderstand our work because the manuscript itself was not sufficiently clear, right? So in that particular condition, as per my experience and suggestion, I will tell you that the best solution may be to improve the manuscript rather than just simply doing the argument with the reviewer, right? If you believe that even I can say 5% of the comments or 10% of the comments may increase the potential of your work, because you are ultimately not writing the last manuscript, right? Throughout your life, you are going to communicate your ideas through the research papers, right? So you should not argue always. If possible, then through experimental study part or through some additional analysis part, you should try to convince the reviewers to ultimately uh, enhance the quality of your manuscript, right? Like, for example, you can write, we thank the reviewer for raising such an important concern. We respectfully retain the proposed approach because there may be multiple reasons, right? Why you are disagreeing. So, but your tone or way of writing should be very clear, right? Sometimes it may be possible that I told earlier that due to the limitation of the pages or due to the limitation of the word count, you are not in a position to include any further analysis or result part, right? Then you can write that you can acknowledge the reviewer that we agree with the reviewers, we agree with your comment. However, we are dedicated to continue our research work in this direction. In our further study, we will definitely include our research work or this analysis part on a larger bus system, test bus system, right? So in this way, you can also defend, and most of the times they agree because they are also a part of this entire submission and the review process, right? And this I have already explained. Um, if the ultimate thing is that you should always try to try to incorporate the reviewer's comment, but if not feasible due to any limitation, then explain that limitation clearly to the reviewers. Or there are some alternatives also uh, that you can add the additional work that you have performed and you are wishing to submit in the revised manuscript. You can add that section in the appendix part also, right? Then there are definitely some of the major things. You can say that you should provide alternative validation or analysis where possible. You should not fabricate selectively report or overstate the results, right? If the evidence is not sufficient, for example, say if, for your study the evidence is not sufficient to support any strong claim, right? So we may need to reduce the strength of the claim. Do not claim so many things in your manuscript, right? The claim should be specific, whatever study you have performed in your manuscript, because this is a very common comment. And normally we see in the submission papers during the revision that in the contribution part, the author claims so many things, 5, 6 points, but ultimately in the result and discussion section, they are not able to defend that, right? So just claim less and stronger, right? Then the next thing is how to handle the conflicting reviewers' comment. Um, we will try to understand this with the help of one example. Suppose there are two reviewers. So reviewer one asks us to provide more technical details, right? Means the reviewer one thinks that more studies, more technical details should be included in the manuscript. However, on the other hand, reviewer two says that the manuscript is too lengthy. Then how will you tackle with this situation? Right. So the correct response is not to ignore any of the reviewer. Right. Means first of all, you will have to understand and identify the underlying concern with the reviewers. Right. Like reviewer wants reproductibility, while it may be possible that reviewer two wants some concise or brief type of presentation. Right. So one possible solution may be to keep the essential explanation in the main paper, right? Means main paper means suppose there is a 12-page limitation of any manuscript. Then in the main body of the paper, you keep just the essential explanation part, and then you can move the detailed technical information in the supplementary material, either in the revised either in the review response sheet or as a part of the appendix. You can do it. So in this way you can tackle with the this situation. Means when there is a two contradictory remarks of the two reviewers for the same question, right? Then, based upon the reviewer's comment, if the editor has given some guidance, then you must follow it, because editor uh, normally takes the decision based upon the reviewer's comment only, right? So these things you have to follow, and in the response letter, uh, explain the decision transparently, because this only shows that we have considered both the comments rather than simply choosing the easier one. Suppose the first, normally what a person will do, reviewer one has asked for uh, more technical details, but reviewer two ने कहा कि no, the paper may get too lengthy, so brief करो. So normally we will choose a step two, but it is not like that. This is not the good way. You should address both the reviewers, and you should understand that based upon the decision of both the reviewers, the editor will take the decision. Suppose if you have satisfied reviewer one with your response, but reviewer two has not satisfied, then what the editor will do? There is a 50-50. 50% is saying that accept the manuscript, and the remaining 50% saying no, you cannot accept the you reject it. Then what editor do? If the editor see that no, there is some potential in the work, but just because of the conflict between the reviewers, this problem might have taken place, then they may assign your revised manuscript to another reviewers also, right? That is a good thing, but again, this will be a time-taking process. Again, 1 month, 2 month delay will be there when you get the response of your entire manuscript, revised manuscript. So you should be very careful while revising the manuscript, right? Then next one is the common revision tasks. You can see these things in this slide. There are several revision tasks that appear across the research paper. One is the strengthening of the literature review. We have already discussed this. Then methodological part and clarity is one of the major concern, right? I think we have discussed this part. So next one is revising the manuscript systematically. So this here in this slide, uh, let us now look at a systematic workflow, right? So step one is to create a master list of every reviewer comment. Then in the next step, to assign a status as pending, addressed, or verified. This is just for your reference while preparing the response to the reviewer's comment. Then, section by section, you should revise your manuscript. Means actually, this is much safer option, the step three, because it may be possible that changing different sections randomly, there is a chance that you may miss any comment, right? Then step four is to compare the revised manuscript with the response letter, right? Because ultimately, whatever response you have prepared for as per the reviewer's comment, that should reflect in your revised manuscript. Both should be correlated with each other, right? Because both the files you need to submit uh, as a response to the reviewer's comment. Then fifth step is a technical consistency check. That is review the figures, then tables, equations, the references, and all the supplementary files, right? Because sometimes the reviewers or the editor may ask you to submit any supplementary files, maybe related to the additional study that you have performed, or the different format of the figures or tables that you have presented in your manuscript, right? So these things should be very, you should be specific, right, and very careful. Then sixth step is the proofreading, right? Now there is a pattern that even after two round of revision process, some journals may ask you, means after tackling or dealing with the technical comments of the paper, there is a chance that the editor may say before recommending the paper for printing or publication to the press, they may ask you as a certificate for the proofreading, that you provide us a certificate that your paper is proofread by an expert of means this English language. So in that case, uh, you may use different kind of tools, maybe Grammarly, or you can take help from any service provider for just for the proofreading part, right? Because they normally ask for certificates also sometimes. That proofreading certificate from an authorized company or organization is required, right? So you should look at all these aspects. Then here is one example of weak versus strong response. So the weaker one is that you will just say that done as per the reviewer's comment. Then the better one is that thank you for pointing out this. We have added a detailed explanation of the data pre-processing procedure in support section 2.3. But the stronger response goes further. It explains that we added the normalization method, missing value treatment, and data splitting protocol, you can say, and then provides the exact page and line number. This is important because the reviewer should be able to verify our response quickly. As I have told that there may be multiple pending assignment with any individual reviewer, right? So a useful thumb rule is that whenever possible, answer three questions. What did the reviewer identify? Then second one is that what did we do as a response to that identification process? Then where can the reviewer find the change? So all these things can be included in a stronger response. Like you can see here, thank you for this valuable comment. We agree that the pre-processing procedure was insufficiently described, and we have added the normalization method, missing value treatment, and data splitting protocol in section 2.3, page this, line this. So these changes basically improve the reproductivity, right? Then here in this slide, uh, the tone of the response letter, uh, what should be the tone, right? And how it matters, almost as much as important compared to the technical content, right? So what we should do while preparing the review response and what we should not do. So these things are explained in this slide. So in do, I have included the three one. We thank the reviewer for this insightful suggestion. We agree and have revised the manuscript accordingly. Then we respectfully disagree because you will have to give the reason. If you are disagreeing with any of the comment, then it is very much important to give proper justification for your denial. You should not say. Now, last three one is most important because you should never say the reviewer is wrong, this comment is irrelevant. As already stated, the reviewer should read the paper carefully. I hope nobody will do that because nowadays the paper acceptance rate is day by day going very lesser, right? So I hope all of you know that. Now the most important thing is ethics during revision, right? So in the entire process, right? So the research ethics must remain in the central domain. Means one should never fabricate experiments, either data or reference or result, right? Means you should not manipulate the data. Uh, I can say simply to produce a result that appears to just to satisfy the reviewer, right? Means in another word, I will say that if we make any substantial changes to the study or to the manuscript, so those changes should be disclosed with full honesty, right? Now, one thing I have also seen means for the research for the means beginner researchers, I will say that in hurry, just they choose the references very randomly, right? So it should not be like that. Just to complete the list of references means if any reference is not relevant to the study, then also they have selected that, right? So I will say that references should be relevant and it should be fairly selected. You should not add unnecessary citations simply to increase the number of references. So this does not give you a good impression, right? Another thing is that nowadays there is a competition of citations also among the researchers. So it is not always suggested that you should cite all your work, personal work, if it is not relevant, even if it is not relevant. Because ultimately, if suppose you are writing any paper and you have cited your 7 or 10 publications in that particular research paper, right? If those papers are related to that work, then it's good enough, right? But merely to increase the citations and number of references, it is not um, means advisable to add your personal reference or any reference, right? Then there are multiple steps like we should also avoid copying text or images from other sources without proper citations or attribution, right? So these ethics related things is I think well known to you. If you are not aware, then the first step should be before you write any paper, even before this process, submission process, during the paper writing process only, you should take care of this ethics part. You should go through the ethics part because this is lifelong thing. If any one of your paper is published, then it will be in the online domain throughout the life, right? So at any point of time, if anybody will claim that this is a plagiarized work, right? Then there are very adverse situation in that particular condition. So you should be very specific about this. Then next one is the final checks before the resubmission. So these things I have already explained that first of all confirm that every reviewer comments response has been prepared. Then you should check that every response corresponds to an actual manuscript change or contain a clear scientific justification that you have not made any change with proper justification, right? Then third one is to verify every page, section, and line reference, right? So these things you should go through properly. Then proof about proofreading also we have discussed. Language part also we have discussed. Then cover letter may also be required that you will address to the editor that or editor in chief that as per the comments received and as per your decision, we have prepared the revised manuscript and submitted to your reputed respected journal. So all these things should be uh, there in your final checklist before you submit the resubmit paper. Right. This is well described. Then at last, I will say that before the conclusion part, these are the final key takeaways that you take from this session. We can summarize the lessons from this session as first one is that reviewer comments should be treated as a roadmap for improving the manuscript. Well, before the start of this session, I have told you that ultimately the incorporation of the reviewer's comment in your manuscript will ultimately improve the quality of your manuscript. Even if your paper is rejected, then you can improve the quality by incorporating the suggested changes in your manuscript. Okay. Then second one is every comment actually deserves a clear and professional response. Right. So respond to every comment professionally and specifically. Third one is you should know that the disagreement is acceptable when it is supported by proper scientific reasoning. Just saying that I do not agree with the reviewer's comment is of no use because you are not in any argument with anyone. Right? Technically, people are communicating. So you will have to give proper justification why you are disagreeing with the reviewer's comment. Right. Fourth one is that every revision should be traceable and easy to verify. Right. Whatever you claim should be supported with evidence. Right. That is, claims should always be supported by appropriate evidence. Right. And finally, I will say that your response letter and response to the reviewer's comment should be with full transparency and with respect, right? So if you are able to go with or incorporate these suggestions whatever we have discussed throughout this lecture, means if you develop these habits in your early research career, then the revision process will become much more easy, or I can say manageable to all of you. Right. So thank you very much for your valuable time. So this is all about from my side. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can ask. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. So thank you so much, sir. So any queries from the audience? So I think, sir, there is no any queries. Just I want to add one more sentence, sir. Like sometimes I also got two contradicting comments from the reviewer. Like one reviewer is saying that I have like 50 references, so I had to remove. And in the reviewers
Right,
may say you have to add some new relevant references also. So I had to
right,
obey,
right,
yeah, so I had to obey both. So out of 50, I heard did like I have removed 4, 5, 6 references. In simultaneously, according to the reviewer two, I also added some new references because reviewer two has asked for adding some new and relevant references. So in that way, we
right.
can make contradicting comments of the reviewers like that.
Definitely, definitely. Means
Yes.
few irrelevant, not irrelevant, I will say outdated reference we can omit and we can add the
Yes.
new references, reference, event references.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other doubt from the audience? So if there is no any doubt, so I'm concluding the session, sir. So thank you very much,
Thank,
Dr. Neeraj Kumar Chaudhary, sir, for delivering such an enlightening and engaging lectures. Your valuable insights, practical experiences, and thoughtful discussions have greatly enriched our understanding of the topic. I am confident that all the participants have benefited immensely from your expert guidance. We sincerely appreciate time and efforts you have devoted to this session despite of your busy schedule. On behalf of the organizing committee ROTW 2026 and all the participants, I express my sincere heartfelt gratitude to you, sir. Once again, thank you very much, sir. Thank you, everyone. So,
thank you, Dr. Prajapati. Thank you very much.
yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you, sir.
Saran sir.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
So
Thank you.
now I request all the participants, if you haven't filled feedback form, you may fill feedback form, and tomorrow your online assessment is also there. So please be present in the online assessment. You will enjoy. There is like 50 questions. You may attempt at least 70 questions, but if you will see the questions, you will by yourself, you will try to attempt all 50 questions. So that will be very useful online assessment that is scheduled tomorrow after the tomorrow session. Like tomorrow session will over after 6:30 or 5. At what time it will over? Immediately we will start online assessment. So it will be just 1 hour. So I request all the participants once again, please give your valuable suggestion. Feedback form I already shared, and be present tomorrow for the online assessment. So thank you once again, everyone. And now I'm closing the sessions.